Hey guys, welcome back to the PIS. You have made it to the final episode, the final installment, Pop, Lock, and Drop at episode 10. So, real quick, I want to explain why this video was last, and I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm going to let this video run. So, what's going on here is that this technique, you probably need some backstory, is how I learned to fight. This is the way I was instructed, the way I was taught when I first started flying in the 3-dot patches. And again, the benefactor who gifted me this flight style, if you will, was my previous training partner in the videos, Red Rum from AotW. He's another extremely good pilot. And so that when I first learned, this is how I was taught using this kind of pop, lock, and drop it technique. I will have to admit to you up front that even for me, this technique has evolved to the point now that it looks different from what Red does, and Red is actually far more deadly using this pop, lock, and drop it routine than me, which is part of the reason that I developed a slightly more evasive flight style. So that being said, what you're seeing here is a kind of a distillation of everything we've already learned put into one bite-sized package that can be used as a flight style, as a shooting technique, as a baiting technique, and to a certain extent it is used as a dodging technique, although the dodging is far less nimble dodging. It's more strategic dodging, so I'll have to explain. There's 3 phases: pop, lock, drop, right? So you're going to pop the ship, lock the reticle or the crosshairs, and then drop the shot. And what I mean by that is when I say pop the ship, you're going to move the ship in some direction that doesn't look like where they expect it to be. And then you're going to lock the reticle or crosshairs by using a pitch or yaw flick, and then obviously drop the shot onto the pips. So what you're going to watch here is a kind of a constant version of me moving the ship away from where they think I'm going to be. So there's a lot of timing going on here. And again, this is something that you kind of develop over just hours and hours and hours of playing. I have an idea in my head of what his ship looks like. I also have like a timer ticking. So when I make my first pop, I take my shot. I know I've probably got, give or take a quarter of a second before I have to make my next pop. Otherwise, he's going to have a solid lockup on where I am. Now, again, I am counter maneuvering for most of this video, which means I'm trying to do something that puts me back where I want to be versus where he wants me to be, or I'm trying to directly counter his maneuver. So if he's maneuvering for a top shot, I'm going to maneuver to take it. If he's maneuvering for a bottom shot, I'm going to counter maneuver to take it away from him. So what you're seeing here is a lot of positional jockeying. We are trying to get a shot on each other that looks like what we want. And again, for most of this video, you will see that I'm just trying to control the distance. I'm not really pushing him too hard. Now, there are times back and forth you'll see here where I do get right up in his grill, which is going to cause him to react in a certain way. I tried to leave some of that distance management and aggressive push out, as that is a separate video I'm going to do here shortly. But again, so for the most part of this, what I'm attempting to do is to slide in and out and kind of keep him in that really close range. The reason I want to keep him up close here is because this pop, lock, and drop it routine for me works a lot better when the flick shot can be delivered sooner rather than later. What I mean by that is the projectile travel speed. I don't like for these shots to travel a long distance, so I'm going to try to get right up in their face. So inside of maybe 500 meters is where I'm going to try to hold him at. Now, again, I am pressuring him here with volume of fire and with the maneuvering and movement of my ship. So he's kind of feeling like I'm all up in his face, which I am, as well as I'm maintaining a pretty steady volume of fire. One thing you should be aware of is that these particular to this technique, I am trying on purpose to maintain a volume of fire. I know going in that the vast majority of these rounds are not going to connect. So what I'm trying to do here is keep him off balance and give him the impression that he doesn't really know when I'm going to shoot. Because there's sometimes I'm shooting on the cooldown of the lasers. There's other times where I'm not shooting on the cooldown. There's times where I'm shooting right before the pop. There's times where I'm shooting right after the pop. There's times where I'm shooting during the pop. So again, all I'm trying to do is be somewhat inconsistent, but I'm trying to maintain a volume of fire. It's really a disguising technique. So I don't want him to understand that, okay, he's going to pop the ship, lock his pips, drop the shot, right? So that is technically what I'm doing. And in most of the cases where you see me get a hit, that's exactly what I've done, is pop the ship, lock the pips, drop the shot. However, in order to set that up, in order to make those hits count or be able to land them, what I'm doing is maintaining a kind of suppressive volume of fire so that he can't get a solid read on my shot timing or my technique. So again, this particular shooting style, flight style, movement style, bait style is and can be used as its own sort of flight style in and of itself. I will admit to you firsthand that this is not my primary shooting technique, and there are other pilots who are better at this particular version of this than me, especially, like I said, the guy who trained me, Red Rum, is much better at this particular flight style than I am. So again, it's just not my bread and butter, but this is an extremely viable and valuable technique to learn, this pop, lock, and drop. You can make an entire fight out of this one technique by itself. And again, you will see sometimes throughout here, I kind of just, by muscle memory, I default back to trying to drop the pip with the rolling techniques, but I really tried to minimize that for this so you could see just this particular technique. So again, for the most part, this is a little bit of bathtub rock, a little bit of some shot timing and some baiting, but primarily what I'm doing is I'm waiting for the enemy to take a shot, then I make a pop, I lock and shoot, and by the time he starts to reset on my new position, I'm moving again. And again, we're just jockeying for position. So again, this is going to be the end of the PIS, and I apologize that this video ran a little bit long. I just had a lot of information I wanted to cover. So shout outs, GWZ, my opponent here, was kind enough to help me put together all of the PIS videos. I shouldn't say help me, I should say he did it, because video editing is not my forte. Much thanks to Red Rum for doing sitting around in free flight for a solid 45 minutes or an hour while I taped myself flying all over and doing all kinds of silly things. So I have lots more videos coming, but this is the end of the PIS. Like I said, there's some stuff, distance management and all kinds of fun stuff coming after that. So appreciate the support so far. And again, any questions, hop on, check us out in Discord. Talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.